Back to another instant reaction edition of the Night Report podcast. Richie, this was initially planned as a basketball-centric podcast, but we had some huge news break today. It's been one of the worst kept secrets since he announced his transfer from Texas A&M, but Jahzion Harris, who is a Erasmus Hall product, class of 2021 high school recruit, has transferred to Rutgers. He's got a ton of talent, but tell us a little bit about him and what Rutgers is getting in this really talented edge rusher.
Yeah, I mean, calling him talented is an understatement. He was number 120 in his recruiting class. Rutgers actually finished second in his recruitment, I found out. It was Texas A&M, obviously, at first, and then Rutgers was right there. Erasmus Hall, you're getting your sixth kid from Erasmus Hall on the roster. And he's just super athletic on the edge. He's got to pack on a little bit of weight. I think he's around 6'4", 6'5", 220. A little on the thin side. But once he adds that muscle, which shouldn't take very long, I could see him being a significant contributor, especially with a guy like Mohamed Toure out for the season. You need as much help there on the edge as you can get. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of camp, he's surpassing a couple of names like Wesley Bailey and the Cam Stewarts of the world. He's that good.
He is incredibly talented. He kind of got screwed because COVID took away his senior year, and he was already seen as like a raw prospect. And he redshirted last year with Texas A&M. He played 2 games, I believe. He had a decent PFF grade, but I think he only played like 28 snaps, so you can't really take that with much credence. But it sounds like they are not super bummed. It's not like they're losing like a Quinn Ewers type guy, but they're pretty bummed to see him go because they saw that he was a guy who could contribute to the defensive line next year for Texas A&M. So what was, from what you can gather, what was the reason that he decided to transfer from Texas A&M?
He just wanted to be closer to home. He technically did play his high school ball in Brooklyn at Erasmus Hall, like we said. But he is a Staten Island native, and, I mean, Staten Island's, 20 minutes, 30 minutes from Rutgers, maybe, if that. So, I mean, he just wanted to get back closer to home. He's seeing all his buddies team up again. He's seeing Sean Ryan join the team now. Kassan Abram, Chris Newsian, all these guys he played high school ball with are all, like, on the same team. And it's like, oh, my God, like, what am I doing down in Texas? Like, I'm not even playing that much. Like, I can go home. I can be a starter. And that's basically the thinking right now.
For sure. And, I mean, this pipeline from Erasmus Hall to Rutgers has been so fruitful for Greg under his 2.0 regime. Like, this is kind of like having an in with, like, Bergen Catholic of New York, honestly, because they're able in New York City, they're able to just kind of like magnetize all the top talent to one school or 2 schools. And that's kind of what Erasmus Hall is. They're getting all the top kids from New York City and the surrounding area to come play for them. Does this affect any of the kids in the 23, 24, 25 class for Erasmus Hall? Like, did they really look up to a guy like Jahzion Harris?
Not only do they look up to him, but it's more of the fact that, like, this is basically E-Hall in college. Like, this is an E-Hall college program at this point. You're getting a bunch of former guys and faces, your familiar faces you know already. It's gonna play huge dividends for guys like Caden Brown. Aris Bethia, I'm a little still indifferent on because his brother is down at ASU, so I still think he might still end up elsewhere. But Caden Brown just has, every time we've talked to him, has always said the right things about Rutgers. He's got 4-star potential. I think he should be a 4-star now, but argument for a different day. But I mean, I think they have a really good shot at landing him, and that could be a nice little kickoff to this 2023 class.
I am kind of shocked, given how much hype Caden Brown had. Is like, I thought he was more likely to be a 5-star than a 3-star based on like the hype before he got ranked. What's the reasoning for him being a 3-star? Is it that he is still raw, but he's just super, super athletic?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. He ironically reminds me of Jahzion a little bit. He is super raw. I've saw him a couple times this year at Under Armour and a couple other camps, and he hasn't looked bad on the edge. He's shown glimpses. You'll like see a couple plays and you're like, oh shit, it's fast. Like, and then other plays you're like, all right, he just got manhandled because he's 202 pounds. So I mean, yeah, he's got to pack on the weight. I think that's the biggest thing. Once these guys pack on those pounds, I think it's going to make a significant difference.
For sure, it's a huge land for Rutgers because we clearly needed a defensive line addition due to us losing Toure and just not really having a difference maker on the edge. So this was kind of like a perfect addition. Is this kind of one of the reasons we might have backed off of a guy like Ted Gregory, or is this completely separate?
It's completely separate. Gregory, he obviously loves Rutgers a lot. He was very close to Rutgers and the coaches, but he wanted to take more visits. And at the end of the day, that's part of the rules when you're a Rutgers commit or going to be a Rutgers commit. You don't take visits elsewhere, and he wanted to take visits elsewhere. He visited Tulane. He's supposed to visit down at Vanderbilt. I think he actually did hit up Vanderbilt this past weekend or whatever it was. So, I mean, it's a tough loss, I guess, at the end of the day. But, I mean, getting just Jahzion Harris is a pretty good supplemental price.
Yeah, amazing addition this late. And just to clarify, we were unsure of him being eligible or not for this upcoming season due to him missing the transfer portal window. Does it sound like that's going to be a problem, or is he going to be eligible?
It sounds like he's going to be fully eligible and ready to go. And it's huge for Rutgers. Like I said, I think with Mohamed Toure out, he's going to play some significant snaps.
For sure. And then training camp starts next week, correct? So he's going to be lining up for practice number 1?
Thursday or Friday, one of those 2 days. It is this week.
It's this week.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Thursday or Friday. I might have misconstrued it, what the guy said, but I was told Thursday or Friday. I'm assuming he meant this week. I can't imagine he'd say that for next week. But, my source is saying this week, and they're getting ready to go. This is going to be interesting.
That's awesome. Just another really interesting guy to watch in camp this year. So we'll have a lot more about Jahzion and the entire team for you guys this week. We'll probably do some kind of training camp kickoff primer either this week or early next week to kind of really set the tone for what camp's going to look like this year. But again, like we said, this was originally planned to be a basketball-centric podcast, and we have recently added a new basketball analyst to the site, Davis Moseley. He's going to join us shortly, but before he joins, we do have another commitment to discuss. This is a class of 22 kid. He was originally 23. But it sounds like he's going to join the team at some point for this upcoming season, whether it be for the winter session or for the start of the season in November. But his name is Antonio Chol. I think he goes to school in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken.
Sort of. So there's like a weird thing that was going on there. So he actually was a North Carolina guy. He was a 2023. I think he was at Word of God, it was called. Word of God High School. I have pulled up right here. So he actually was going to do a prep year at Minnesota Prep Academy, which is a pretty well-known academy over in Minnesota. And he just ended up committing to Rutgers, and he's reclassing back to 2022, and he'll be enrolling this season. So they got another big man.
That's awesome. And to help us talk about it, we have the newest analyst on the site, Davis Moseley. Sorry to jump in right here and have you start talking immediately, but Davis, welcome to the team. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a student at Georgia, right? University of Georgia?
Yeah, so I'm currently in my sophomore year, trying to finish up. Hopefully I can finish in 3 years. That'd be the plan, and I can start going full-time with all my adventures. But I'm glad to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love basketball. I love covering it. And I'm really excited about being here.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about how you hopped into the industry so young. I know Richie got into it young as well, but how do you form these connections with these kids from all over the country with, just being a high school or a freshman in college?
Yeah, so it really starts, to me, with the people you work with. So working with guys like Richie, working with guys like Josh over at the Michigan site, they really helped me and brought me along, which was so big for me. I was 19-year-old, no experience, no nothing, no degree, and they just brought me on and taught me everything I know, which was just so huge to helping me. And I started with no bad habits, which was what was so important. And basically the way I handle my relationships with recruits and with parents is I treat them with the utmost respect, and they reciprocate that with me right away. I'm not going to harass parents. I'm going to text them once. And if they don't get back to me, okay, I'll find another way to talk to the kid, whether it's through a coach or however. But I'm not going to harass anybody. I'm not going to, keep continuously bother people. I text them once, and people will text me back. And I think that stems from the way you treat people. Is that at the end of the day, everybody wants to be treated with respect, and all parents want to talk about their kids. That's just
Absolutely.
How it goes.
So Richie was kind of giving us his take on the Antonio Chol commitment. That was the commitment we got on Friday. Unfortunately, we like to get these commitment analyses out right away, but I think that was a little too far in the day for all of us. So tell us what you're hearing about Antonio Chol. This is a kid we added late to this 22 class/23 class. It's kind of unsure, it sounds like, whether he's going to be joining the team for the start of the season or midway through. So tell us a little bit about him. He sounds like a late riser.
Yeah, so he's kind of an interesting type of thing. I think he was originally in the 22 class, reclassified back to 23, and now he's coming back to 22. Okay, look, that's all fine. Watching him, he's probably somewhere between a solid 6'8", 8.5, 215, and he's kind of that tweener between 4 and 5, in my opinion. I don't think he quite has the ball handling to be a 3, but the way he handles the ball as a 4, I like. I think he needs to use his left hand a little more, but once he gets that, he's going to be a real force. He's got the body to put on a lot of weight. And a lot of good weight, which is nice to see. I think his jump shot's got a lot of potential. It looks smooth. There's no hitch or anything, and I think he's a good player. I think for his size, he's going to be able to handle the ball well enough to attack opposing big men in the Big Ten, and I think he's probably going to be able to hang and bang with them down low as well.
Yeah, it sounds like he was getting a lot of independent publicity before he committed to Rutgers about how does this kid not really have much more interest than these non-Power 5 conferences, and this kid was playing lights out defense and was a force on offense too. Is this just a kid who just was under the radar, or has he developed his game a lot in the last year or two?
You got to imagine it's a little bit of both. I think a lot of the times with these cases, a lot of kids do get underranked. I mean, at the end of the day, there's 150 prospects that get ranked over on Rivals.com. And so that leaves a lot of discretion for people that weren't ranked. I mean, Geo Baker, for example, was an unranked 3-star on Rivals.com. He didn't quite turn out to be fitting of that role. He turned out to be a really good college player. The same thing with lots of guys. I think it has a lot to do with the amount of prospects ranked. I think they probably need to do more than 150. Now, that makes it a little difficult, and you can't really see 150 prospects every day, and you don't really know what you're getting until you see him in person multiple times. And so I think that's a case, but I'm sure he's improved a lot over the last year as well. I haven't been able to really see him play in person or anything, but the highlights look promising, and a lot of them are recent, which is probably pretty telling that he's improved a lot over the last handful of months or even a year.
All right, Dave, so we got to talk about it. We got to talk about this son of an NBA legend that Rutgers is showing a ton of interest in, Dylan Harper, right?
I got you.
Yeah, I think what he's referring to is the Bronny James stuff that dropped this weekend. That was one of the more shocking developments, I think, in recent memory. Tell us just where that came from and if that's legit and how much interest we're actually showing and how much is being reciprocated.
See, here you go. I wrote down Bronny. Who knows? No one knows. Look, this kid is I've watched him live down in Peach Jam. I would say he's probably somewhere between 50 to 75 ranking, and I think that's where he is on Rivals right now. It's just very strange to see a player of his skill to not have many offers. It's really bizarre, and I think a lot of that had to do with, of course, who he is. That changes everything, but as well as no one knew if he was really going to play college ball, because at the end of the day, his dad wants to play with him in the NBA. But it's interesting. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with the Rutgers side. I know there's some preliminary contact and a lot of interest, and why wouldn't there be? He's a really good player. He's a 6'2", 6'3" lead guard who plays great defense and plays any role he needs to. He can go out and score 20 or 25 points, but then he's going to get 12 assists the next night. So I think he's a really good player. I think a lot of people almost downplay him, and I think that happens a lot to former NBA players, kids, and most people would think it's the other way, and it's really not. Most former NBA player kids get downplayed, which I don't agree with. And I think he's very deserving of a top 100 spot, and I'd like to see Rutgers get a little more involved and continue it on and offer him and snag him.
It'd obviously be a massive commitment, not only for the on-court talent, but also the off-court talent, because some people were kind of outlining on the boards, like Rutgers would be on SportsCenter every night that Bronny James is playing. We'd be top of, any dunk he had would be all over Twitter, all over social media. It would be the biggest, single marketing coup Rutgers has had in a very long. I pause to say ever, because I haven't been alive as long as Rutgers athletics has been around. But one of the things that people have mentioned is the Adidas contract at Rutgers and how that might make Bronny coming to Rutgers kind of impossible. Is that something that is really going to be a huge factor in if he chooses a school?
Maybe, I mean, at the end of the day, he also said North Carolina was a program that was involved. And they're, I know Jordan is an affiliate of Nike and all, but at the end of the day, that's not Nike. So probably a little bit. It's definitely a factor, but I don't think it's like the end of the day, yes or no, depending on that. It's obviously just like any college recruitment, it's about fit. It's about trusting the coaching staff. It's about ability to play early, and that's what's important to the James family, in my opinion. Obviously, Bronny is going to try to get to the league and play with his father. And how much time does King James have? That's probably going to end up being the deciding factor on it all.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point, but I want to move on and talk a little bit about another guy who I mentioned before. I want to talk about Dylan Harper. I'm sure you saw him down at Peach Jam. Rutgers is obviously on him pretty heavily right now, with obviously Ron going to Rutgers for the past couple of years. But what are you hearing on Dylan right now? What kind of game is he bringing? Because he's went from, I think, number 80 in the country to like number 15 now.
Yeah, he is a 5-star prospect in every mention of the word. He is good, really good. 6'4", maybe 6'3.5", 6'4", 185, 190 pounds, something along those lines. He's built real well, and he's got room to put on a lot of more good weight once again, just like his brother. His brother played guard, essentially, and he was pretty big, pretty thick, and I think Dylan's got the chance to put on a lot of muscle. And at the end of the day, what he brings to the court is a lot of IQ. He's really smart out there, and you can tell that just watching him play. He's the smartest guy on the floor. And that really helps him, not to mention, his skill. The guy is an absolute scorer, but he's got great size, and he's going to set his teammates up. I love the way he passes the ball. I think that's one of the more underrated aspects of his game, and something that people maybe don't talk about enough. I think he's a really good in-between combo guard type of thing. I like him more at the 2, but his ability to create on ball, not only for himself but for his teammates, stands out.
And where would you say Rutgers stands in his recruitment in terms of the pecking order?
You got to feel good. That's where I'm at. I think he mentioned 3 programs were really sticking out to him, and it was Indiana, Rutgers, and Texas Tech. You got to feel really good about ever being in the top 3. That's how I've always gone. If you're in the top 3 or top 2, you got to feel really, really good about your chances. And whether he ends up at Rutgers or wants to pave his own path, that's his story, and he'll obviously tell that. But I really like where Rutgers is, and I don't think Rutgers is envying anyone's position right now. He feels at home at Rutgers. He feels like a normal person, I think was his quote. And I think that speaks to a lot of how Rutgers has made him feel. Obviously, he is a priority, and they need to show that maybe a little more, rather than just including him in everything as a normal person, show him more that he's an important prospect for them. Going forward, you got to like where they are.
Yeah. That's awesome to hear. The next guy I kind of wanted to talk about was Papa Kante. He's a 6'10" center out of Connecticut, goes to South Kent. He's also an AAU teammate of class of 23 commit Rutgers, Gavin Griffiths. What are you hearing about him?
Yeah, so the thing about Papa, I watched every game of Papa Kante down at Peach Jam. They were coaches from countries or from schools all across the country. I think UCLA ended up making it out for a couple games of his, which I found was interesting, considering they haven't offered or anything. Illinois was there for many of his games. Rutgers was there. Michigan was there. Just about any program. Pitt was there for every game. That's telling. I really like Papa. I really, really like Papa. Needs to work offensively. Needs to get better. Extend his range. He's not limited, so to say, but he's better inside of 8 feet, which is okay. I like him to Big Cliff. I think that's a pretty good comparison. But the thing about Papa is he plays harder than any prospect I saw at Peach Jam. I didn't see a player play with more intensity, more fire, and more passion than Papa. The guy plays so hard, and he does the things right. And he needs to learn. He needs somebody to teach him, which I think is important. And I really like him. I think he's a surefire top 100 guy. I think he's a little underranked on Rivals right now. I think he's probably somewhere fitting between the 60 to 75 range. And I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he's a couple years in college, 3-4 years. developing and just getting better overall. But I really like him. I think he's one of the 5 best defensive centers in all of high school basketball. And he plays, like I said, I know it's sounds like a broken record. He plays so hard. It's awesome to watch him play.
So I want to talk to you about, obviously, a very close family friend of his, Gavin Griffiths. You watched him a couple times. He's a Rutgers commit. Everything I keep hearing on the guy, I haven't been able to see him in person. I've only seen tape. But everyone keeps telling me this is like one of the best shooters in the country right now. Is that true?
Yeah, so that's obviously the thing that sticks out with Gavin. The dude is a knockdown shooter. The one thing that was interesting was he was a little injured and a little hindered at Peach Jam. I think he had an ankle injury for the first couple of games, so he wasn't able to play with expressions. And so that was interesting to see how he had to overcome that. But he ended up playing later in the week, and he played really well, in my opinion. And like you said, he's a great shooter, and everybody talks about his shooting. But his size is impressive. He is humongous. I think some outlets have him 6'7", and I think he's probably upwards of 6'8.5". He's a long kid. He's got real long arms. One thing that stuck out to me was that he has a little bit of wiggle to him. I didn't think he was going to be able to create as much off the bounce as he could, and it was very impressive. I think he's going to be one of those guys that you know as a second or third ball handler out there, and can create a little bit off the bounce, maybe more for him than for teammates, but I really like the way that he can create shots and get his own shot off. And at the end of the day, nobody's blocking a 6'9", 6'8.5", shooter. Nobody's blocking that.
Yeah, and I know I referenced it before, but for people that don't know, explain a little bit about Kante's connection to Griff's.
Yeah, so Gavin's mom is technically Papa's guardian while he's over here in the States. So Papa is from Senegal over in Africa and hasn't been over there in a handful of years. I think he's actually over there now with his family, or he's planning to leave soon. But while he's over in the States, Gavin's mom has kind of taken that guardian role and has watched over him and taken care of him, which is nice to see. But the thing I really appreciate as a media person is that she hasn't influenced him in any way. I think that's really key, especially just as our moral obligation as people. At the end of the day, she knows it's his decision, and she's respected it as his decision. And now, would it be nice for him to go to Rutgers with Gavin, and that makes it a lot easier? Yes, absolutely. And do I think he's going to go to Rutgers? Maybe, but look, I think Gavin's mom's done an excellent job in making sure that recruitment has been handled in the most responsible and respectful way possible. But at the end of the day, that's his guardian over here in the States, and Gavin's one of his very closest friends. I think that's a major connection and a major pull to Rutgers. And I know that some AAU teammates have been talking with Papa, and I think Dylan Harper was in those conversations as well about teaming up at Rutgers. And I think that's something to watch. I like where Rutgers is at for Papa, and I think I think the top 3 are probably Rutgers, Pitt, and Michigan, and we're expecting a decision pretty soon. I actually texted Papa just not long ago, and we're going to talk before too long, and I'm going to get a little more information about all 3 programs, and then we'll get that out. But I like where Rutgers is at for Papa.
Moving on to another player. This is another class of 23 kid, and I'm sorry if you don't know much about him, but it was a bit of a surprise when he announced that he was going to take an official visit to Rutgers in the fall. His name is Baye Fall. He's a 6'10 center out of Colorado. He's number 12 ranked prospect in the class of 23. Tell us a little bit about what you know about him and where Rutgers might stand with him.
Yeah, so obviously anytime getting an official visit is humongous. That's the key to every recruitment. The odds are you're not going to get a player if they don't officially visit your program. That's just how it is. And being from Colorado, that's interesting to me that he would take a cross country trip over to Rutgers. But at the end of the day, it's a player that Pike has really prioritized. He's a top 15, top 20 guy. He's a really good player, really big, really long arms, big hands. I like where he's at. I like him as a prospect. I think Arkansas is another program in on him. Texas as well. I think Colorado's, of course, in on him. But it's nice to see Rutgers is going to get an official visit, and obviously, once that visit happens, we'll know a lot more about where they stand for him, and that's something to monitor. But it's it's really cool to see Rutgers get an official visit out of a top 15 guy, and we're gonna definitely check in with him soon, and we'll see where Rutgers is at.
Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to see Rutgers with all these top prospects nonstop now. Another guy, I don't know how much familiar you are with him, but I talked to Dwayne Pierce the other day, the 2024 guard out of New York, and I think he's top 15, top 20, something like that. Maybe a little lower.
He's 63.
63.
I just had his profile up, yeah.
But I was close. But he even said Rutgers is in his top program right now. That's recruiting him, and it's just crazy to see this. Like, is that what you're kind of hearing when you go to like these AAU events and stuff? Are people like talking like, holy shit, like Rutgers is like, this is a thing?
I mean, I think like you said, how many times, how many years ago was it that Rutgers was recruiting top 15 talent? And I know our guy that you were just mentioning was 63, but Dylan Harper's top 15. Gavin Griffiths was ranked in the top 15 at his point of commitment. I mean, you don't see that much, and it's really cool to see Pike has got almost a change in recruiting style, and he's swinging for these big fish, and I think he's proven that he can land them. Obviously, with Gavin, that's a big pull. That's a top 35 player at worst, and that's a big pull for the Rutgers program. He's a program changing talent, at least on the wing, which, when you're talking about program changing talent, you're really looking for a guard, but Gavin has that ability to really change where Rutgers is at. And I think he has already done that with the ability to recruit high end talent. Bringing in guys that are mid 4 stars, even pushing 5 stars, that was kind of unheard of for Rutgers. And I don't think the fan base was quite ready for that. And the fact that they're in there contending for it's very impressive to see. I think Pike's done a great job. And he's done a great job at Rutgers as a coach. They hadn't made the NCAA tournament since, 1991 or less, whatever it was, and he's made it the back-to-back years. That's something to at least give him credit for, and the ability to develop players has been, beyond impressive. And that sticks out to guys.
And I also think that people don't give him enough credit that back in even 10 years ago, kids were not even giving Rutgers the time of day. They weren't even coming for a visit. It's a step-by-step building process. You need to get these kids interested first. And once they start showing up to games, they're going to put you in their top 5. And even if you don't land a kid, that's a step in the right direction. That's a step towards landing these kids. And I know recruiting is very binary. It's very, you landed them or you didn't. But you need to be in the running first before you start landing these kids. And Pike was in that territory for a while. Now he's starting to land them. And now people are starting to see maybe he's not as bad of a recruiter as they thought. It's just he was working with 2 hands tied behind his back without a practice facility, without a crowd. Now he's got both those things. He's got one of the best environments in college basketball. He's got one of the nicest facilities in college basketball. So he's got a lot to sell now. So you're seeing the fruit come. You're seeing the work come to fruition now.
No question. I think it's very impressive. Like you said, he was recruiting with 2 hands tied behind his back. I mean, 10 years ago, were kids wanting to come to Rutgers? Just like you said, no. Now, yes. I mean, you're talking about top 15 talent Dylan Harper talking with other players about teaming up at Rutgers. That's impressive. And yes, there's a connection there with Ron, and that's nice to say, but at the end of the day, it's a top 15 talent trying to land other prospects at Rutgers to play with. That's unheard of.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what I really got for you. Davis, I wanted to bring it up too. I guess we're going to see a lot of you on the Rutgers website soon, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been working with some stuff behind the scenes, both good and bad. Managing my time. Obviously, I'm a college kid, so I'm getting ready for that. Getting ready to move down. I move down Saturday. But after that, I'm going to have a lot of time, and I'm going to put a lot of effort and a lot of energy, and you're going to get a lot of content out of me over on the site, and that's what I'm looking to bring. I'm looking to bring a lot of passion, a lot of fire, and get the fan base and the subscribers, excited about Rutgers basketball. That at the end of the day, I think we all should. I think the program's moving in the right direction. I'm looking to help it in any way I can, and I'm really excited about the future opportunities coming.
You had one hell of a first article, though. Your first article is about Bronny James being interested in Rutgers. I'm sure that did pretty well in terms of clicks, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even look at the numbers, but I'm based on the social media interactions to it. It's like, oh shit, there's a lot of Bronny fans out there.
No question.
Yeah, he's got 6.3 million Instagram followers. I don't know how many. I don't know if he's on Twitter even.
I don't know if he is, but that's. I mean, how do you not talk about LeBron James' son? And that's tough. You know, I hate to classify him as LeBron James's son, because at the end of the day, he's his own person, he's his own player. But that's what he's going to be known as forever. I mean, it's right there in the name, LeBron James Jr. And that's all anybody's ever going to you know talk about, which is unfortunate because he is such a high level player.
Yeah.
Agreed. Richie, you got anything else before we sign off here?
No, I think that's pretty much it. That's all I really got. We talked football, we talked basketball, talked everything under the sun for Rutgers, and that's a pretty good episode for a pod, if I have to say so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's all right. But thanks for everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Davis, for joining us, and welcome to the team. This has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.